What's up, friends of the 1911 Syndicate and whoever else may see this? So I figured I'd just put out a very quick, very unorganized ramblings of thoughts in relation to the recent lawsuit that I don't know exactly who won it, but it was against the National Association of Realtors. Basically, the very brief cliff notes. I've been out of town, so I only have the basic fundamentals of the story, but basically NAR, the National Association of Realtors, which pretty much all real estate agents are a part of. It's like an annual thing. You pay your dues and you get to use the MLS and all this kind of stuff, forms, all this kind of stuff. They lost a settlement for 1.8 billion, saying that they and I guess some maybe other big brokerages were conspiring to basically like just kind of have a preset determined way that commissions happened, right? And this lawsuit, them losing it, even though it will be appealed, is going to change the structure of how real estate deals are done, and buyers are going to save all this money, or really sellers would save money, and real estate agents would make less money. So here's the very basic cliff notes to my understanding of it, and just a couple things to factor in. One, I feel like we're in an era where a lot of people are like, stick it to the man, right? The United Auto Workers Union and the healthcare workers and everyone going, we want more money, we want more money. And this kind of feels like a part of that to me. It reminds me very much of when politicians and people who have no understanding of firearms want to be the ones to make firearm regulations and laws. And there's a fundamental problem with that, is you don't actually understand what you're talking about. You're not educated on it. And making laws and rules and determinations on things that you have no clue about feels like we could all get on board that that's kind of a problem. And this is the same way. So here's how, a couple considerations. One, there is no predetermined way that commissions happen. Oftentimes, the seller is the one that has equity in their house, right? They're saying, hey, you know, our house is whatever, raised 100 grand in value. We're going to sell it. Therefore, we're going to pay, let's just say 5 to 6% in commissions. And that would largely be split between the seller's agent and the buyer's agent. So the seller's agent, or the sellers, are the one that pays both sides of the commission. In my opinion, largely because they're the one who isn't really going to feel it. It just comes out of their equity in terms of how much money they're going to walk away with. And that's the deal. Buyers, on the other hand of the equation, especially first-time buyers, the biggest challenge that they have is they do not have cash often. There's not that many first-time buyers that are just sitting on 20% down and they can cover their own closing costs and potentially have 2 to 3% to pay their agent. That's just not really the reality, minus very select circles, but it's very, very, very uncommon. So that, to my understanding, is kind of the direction they're trying to take this, which is the sellers are now going to pay their agent. So if I'm the seller's agent on a house, cool, I will negotiate whatever my rate is with the sellers, 2, 3%, whatever it may be. When we close on the house, the sellers will pay me that. And the buyers, basically we say, hey, on the buyer side, you guys figure it out. You figure out what you buyers want to pay your agent and you sort that out. And that sounds really cool. Like everyone's going to get a better deal here until you, one, come to the realization that buyers aren't typically sitting on loads of cash, certainly not an extra, 10 grand, let's call it. You go, just 10 grand in cash that I need to pay an agent? They go, well, that's the whole point, to create competition inside of the buyer's agent market. Okay, cool. So here's how that looks. All the shitty agents will say, it'll be a race to the bottom. It'll be a race to the bottom in terms of a commission rate. And you'll start seeing billboards and everything of, hey, I'll help you find a house for $1,000. I'll help you find a house for $500. So in what scenario ever do you get a better service by paying the service provider as little money as humanly possible? Where's my motivation, right? Where's my motivation as a buyer's agent if I'm like, this buyer wants to pay me $1,000 to help them find a house because that's what they've seen on billboards, and now that's the going rate hypothetically in this area. It's a disaster. So you're going to wind up with one of two things: either really terrible buyer's agent and buyer agent experiences. Like you as a buyer, you're going to be like, this is terrible. Like this is just a terrible, terrible experience. Also, where's the buyer's agent? You're de-incentivizing buyer's agent from really wanting to show houses. Part of the reason I always tell it, so I've got like a listing right now. We'll use that for example. The current commission on that is 5%. I'm just gonna be completely transparent with you guys. 5% total. Now here's the deal. These are repeat clients of mine. They're friends of mine. I like them. So I'm like, hey, look, let's do this. 5%. I will take the 2%. I will discount myself down because I like you guys and I know we're going to turn around and we're going to go buy a house, and that is where I'll balance out the scales a little bit. So you pay me 2%, but I do not, especially in a challenged real estate market, I do not want to pay the buyer's agent less than 3% because I'm trying to dangle a carrot out there to say, hey, buyer's agents, they're really the ones who are looking, hey, I'll pay you 3% if you bring a buyer here and you buy this house. Buyer's agent is like, oh man, hey, let's get our buyers in there, because one, it seems like it's a good house for them. Two, I'm going to make a good wage if I bring them to that house. So as soon as we eliminate that, where's the motivation? Like, do you think houses sell faster now? No, they sell a lot slower because buyer's agents have no real incentive to get behind this. So let's take the other end. So one, it'll be a race to the bottom of these terrible, terrible commission rates with people who now may not be in the National Association of Realtors. One of the things that you get in that is all the state forms and all this kind of stuff. So now, what is the contract? What, do you have an attorney write that up? Do you think life gets easier by having a real estate attorney involved? It doesn't. Attorneys don't make anything easier. So what are the forms? What are the due diligence period? Oh, and if you think that without getting all into it, I can promise you the buyers are going to be asking, if they're now on the hook for paying their buyer's agent commission, do you think that they're going to be more chill on inspection day when the inspector's like, hey, here's some things that you should take into account and maybe some things you should have fixed? Typically, there's a delicate balance to how much you ask for because you're just like, well, you don't have to pay a buyer's agent commission, so I can, whatever, I'll take on the leaky tub or whatever it is. But once you go, hey man, maybe an extra, I'm using a hypothetical number here, right? So $10,000 is also going to leave my bank account to pay for this buyer's agent commission. I can't afford to make any of these repairs. So I'm going to hammer the sellers on my repair list and what I'm asking of them. Do you think that makes deals go better? No, that's going to make deals fall apart. So these are just food for thought, right? People are going, yay, this is a win for the consumers and they're going to pay less money and all this kind of stuff. The problem is you don't understand the system that you're going after. You're uneducated in it. You're not a part of it. Again, it's like being not in the gun community and expecting to make gun legislation. It's like, you don't even understand what you're talking about. You don't even understand that assault weapon's a made up freaking term. So this is problematic. I'm going to be interested to see how it pans out. I don't know. And it's too early to know. I know that, hey, there's probably some changes coming. I don't think that they're changes that are going to be good because I know for me as a buyer's agent, probably 75% of my clients historically are buyers. There's a point where it's just not worth it, where I'm like, dude, I'm worth more than that. Because I know that you think, whatever, I made, let's say 3% on a $500,000 house. I get a $15,000 check. And you as a buyer or consumer or whatever might be going, man, what a badass career that is. Make $15,000, you didn't even do anything. Well, we were under escrow for a month. I had to get you through inspection, appraisal, all that kind of stuff. So that's a month worth of work. It's probably at least a month in order to even get you under contract. So now it's 2 months worth of work. That's not factoring in the whole period of, chances are, months of just getting you going, right? Like getting you pre-approved, getting your finances in order, getting you set up with what your house criteria, getting you educated, all that kind of stuff. So it's like, chances are your average real estate lead has been worked for about 6 months before that check comes in. Oh, but you made $15,000 and it was so easy. It doesn't really work that way, right? So just take everything that's going on right now with a grain of salt. There's a lot that's not being understood. There's a lot that's not being talked about. And reserve having strong opinions on shit that you're not educated on. I'm out.